Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. As you can see from Wulfrik the Wanderer, we're going to be taking a look at another Norsca early access replay today. This time, Janet on occasion is commanding the forces of Norsca, led by Wulfrik. I'm going to be taking the Empire, led by none other than Supreme Patriarch Balthasar Gelt himself. Yes, indeed. Good old Gelt. Going to be fighting the Norscans today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions. First, we'll start with Norsca. Of course, Wulfrik's on foot. He's got his Sword of Torgwald, the Hunter of Champions debuff ability. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. Sword of Torgwald is non-AP damage, which is nice when Wulfrik's not on his Mammoth because he has non-AP damage. 75% is quite a bit. Hunter of Champions is an armor, melee defense, and speed debuff. A very, very nasty debuff. 46 melee defense is huge, 30 armor, and 48% speed, so that non-AP damage doesn't quite matter as much because he can lower an opponent's armor. He also has Fight or Die, as most Norscan lords do. Sea Fang, which is a bound wind ability. You guys will probably be seeing plenty of this. Summons a boat to ride over your enemies. Also applies Frostbite. He's got Foe Seeker. And that's pretty much it for the rest of the army. We've got a front line mix of Marauders with great weapons, Marauder Berserkers. We've got a couple of Marauder Spearmen here as well. We've got, in the back line, 2 Marauder Hunters with Javelins and a Marauder Hunter with Axes. These guys got a little bit of a change here. They actually have the Shield Breaker attribute, which lowers your opponent's missile block chance, so they can be very good for taking out armored infantry, even shielded armored infantry. Their main drawback, of course, is that they have very short range. He's also got Norscan Ice Wolves and the Regiment of Renown Norscan Wolves here, the Beasts of Tashnar. These guys have a bonus versus large. And yeah, that's pretty much it. His caster is going to be a Shaman Sorcerer, Lore of Death. If we go over to the Empire forces here, I've got 2 Pistoliers, Balthasar Gelt, of course, and a unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun. These guys are going to be very good against Skin Wolves, which I did fail to mention. Janet does have a couple in the back line there, so definitely glad I have them. For infantry, we've got Spearmen, as well as the 2 Regiment of Renown foot skirmisher units. Because the handgunner bug seems to have been fixed mostly, we'll see that throughout the battle. These guys are going to be worthwhile once again. So we've got the Silver Bullets here and the Sterlin's Revenge over on the side. Sterlin's Revenge, of course, Free Company Militia have a higher model count. They have AP damage, which Free Company Militia typically lack. They also have immune to psychology and stock. So a very, very nice Regiment of Renown, solid combat stats all around. And the Silver Bullets, on the other hand, are obviously more of a pure skirmish unit. They do more damage, have a much greater range. They do magic damage as well, so against the higher tiers of Enrage that the Norscans can get to, where they get extra physical resistance, it'll be very good. Skin Wolves also have physical resistance, so the magic damage helps in that respect. They also have stock, so they can stay hidden for as long as you need them to. One more unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun. We've got a Witch Hunter as well, and the Royal Altar of Griffites being supported by a Warrior Priest. So the Warrior Priest got a little bit of a buff in this current build. He's got a little bit more armor, and then we're running him with the Banner of Eternal Flame and the Shield of Faith. Banner of Eternal Flame, of course, gives fire damage in an area of effect around him. That's currently hitting the Hammer of Witches, which it applies to both the ranged and melee capabilities. So we're going to be running him with these Royal Altar of Griffites so that they can take out Skin Wolves more effectively. You can see they do have flaming damage from that effect there, that Banner of Eternal Flame. And the Hammer of Witches also does magic damage normally, but also has fire damage. So yeah, we were looking for some synergy there. Of course, fire damage is going to be very, very good against Norsca, and the Empire can bring fire damage in spades. So historically, in Total War Warhammer 1, this was one of the matchups that was relatively tough for Norsca. We'll see with some of the changes that have been made to the Empire, some of the buffs they've got, it is going to be probably the same as before. You can see that Hammer of the Witches with the flaming damage just immediately coming in, taking out a couple of those Skin Wolves. We're going to be using the Pistoliers to screen out over on this side. The Norsca Ice Holes, obviously, if we get caught, we're pretty much done for. But if we can stay out in front, we can do some good skirmishing. And the Norsca Ice Holes, with their relatively low armor, are going to take a lot of damage. You can see Balthasar Gelt dropping an Overcast Final Transmutation here on Wulfrik in the center. Obviously, Wulfrik doesn't have any sort of mitigation against this, so he is definitely going to be vulnerable to something like this. Also does some good damage to some of the other units in this pocket here. And yeah, we're just going to kind of brace for the charge a little bit. Hammer of Witches, thankfully for me, has a little bit of a hill here. You can see it's on this slightly raised area above the swamp, so that hopefully if the mainline engagement unfolds in front, we can still continue to fire over the heads of our own troops. I make a pretty big mistake here and leave Balthasar within range of these Marauder Hunters with the Javelins, who of course have massive anti-large bonus of 15 on their missiles, so they will do a ton of damage to Balthasar. He's definitely not having a good time. Knights of the Blazing Sun, meanwhile, charging in the front line here. You can see they're getting some good damage done on these Marauders, and immediately going to pull back away. Just charging Marauders in the face is one of the best ways to do damage to them because they don't have a lot of armor. You can see, meanwhile, over on this side, engagement is unfolding. We've got State Troop Spearmen fighting Marauders with great weapons. More Knights of the Blazing Sun charging in. And I had mentioned that the handgunner bug is fixed, so let's go ahead and just briefly look at the silver bullets here. So previously, these guys would have been walking towards the combat because their line of sight is somewhat obstructed. Now, instead, they're doing what they should, which is they're showing the obstructed icon there, and the models that could see were firing. I don't know if you guys caught that just before I slowed it down, but they were actually firing through where they could see. So it does appear that the handgunner bug has been fixed. I mean, obviously they still are direct line of fire, so you still need to have an open line of sight, but they should stop moving towards melee combat and just randomly walking through now, which is good. You can see Seafang opening up this portal, and the ship's going to come blasting through. It does a lot of damage to unarmored units, but it doesn't do the most armor piercing. It does a little bit of armor piercing, but just does devastating damage to those State Troop Spearmen who are going to get routed off. Meanwhile, Sterling's Revenge have turned the corner in the back line, are going to be charging into these Marauder Hunters with Javelins here. Of course, the Sterling's Revenge, with their higher model count, I believe, they do indeed have a higher model count and better combat stats all around, so they should be able to win that fight pretty decisively. We're able to pull Balthasar back, and using the Royal Altar fights in tandem with that Warrior Priest to do a ton of damage to the Skin Wolves. You can see one unit already almost gone, and like I said, this Hammer of Witches, super cool thematic shot up on this little hill here, shooting right over the heads of these state troops who are holding the line valiantly, fighting these Marauders here. You can see Ice Wolves and Knights and all sorts of madness clashing over here. The Ice Wolves are going to get into the Pistoliers a little bit here. I'm going to try and keep them outside of the range, but at this point, it's the job of the Royal Althorcriff fights, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and the Warrior Priest in here to clean up the rest of these Skin Wolves. You can see with the fire damage, these Skin Wolves are just getting absolutely domed here. The Royal Althorcriff fights, definitely with their better combat stats, can hold this line here, so they should be able to stabilize. Meanwhile, in the back line, unfortunately, things are crumbling a little bit. We're having to pull away these silver bullets here, desperately trying to escape the clutches of these Marauders. The Witch Hunter here, since these two Marauder Berserkers are enraging, we can use that to our advantage. We're going to kite away with the Witch Hunter as he turns around and pops a couple caps, and then the Sterling's Revenge are going to make their way through the swamp here and start unloading shots into the flank of that unit as soon as they get into range here. At least I thought they were. The one thing about the Sterling's Revenge is they do have relatively short range here, but you can see there they're getting a few volleys all together, and it will do a pretty devastating amount of damage, even to unarmored units, of course. Another final transmutation going down. I do believe that finished off Wulfrik between the final transmutation and accusation. Just as an aside here, accusation did get capped at 3 uses, which you honestly don't really need more than that anyway, which it was good. I did have a few games as like the Dwarfs in the last patch where basically it would come down to a couple Witch Hunters just kiting you around the map and accusation spamming you to death, which is never fun. But yeah, the Sterling's Revenge, I'm not sure what they're just trying to move away from these Berserkers, I think. But yeah, at this point you can see mobile Goon Squad moving around, cleaning up isolated pockets. These Knights of the Blazing Sun getting a beautiful cinematic charge here downhill into these Marauder Hunters. Most of the infantry has been routed off for the Empire, but Sterling's Revenge still stabilizing. We were able to spring the Silver Bullets free as well, using some of these Knights of the Blazing Sun here. Soul Blight going down to help tear away some of the armor here, which will definitely help the Berserkers. I mean, they just have such high DPS anyway that even against a unit that they're not necessarily designed to counter, like Cavalry, if you get the right engagement, they can do a lot of damage. You can see the Beasts of Tashnar here running down this poor Witch Hunter, who definitely is not going to like the situation, but thankfully the Sterling's Revenge are on station, firing in with their pistols, seeing off those nasty wolves. So yeah, at this point, Balthasar still barely alive with 600 HP. Balance power starting to turn in our favor, as with the loss of Wulfrik, and we do have the Royal Altar of Gryphites still online as well, and since these guys cause terror, it's going to be pretty tough for the remaining Norscan units. The Marauder Berserkers are immune to Psychology baseline even once that Frenzy drops, so they won't be terrified away, but the rest of the Norscan troops are going to be weak to terror. So you can see the Deathcaster riding around here, trying to finish off this this Warrior Priest, but oh man. Or, sorry, yeah, the Witch Hunter, the Warrior Priest is this guy. He's going to come in and lay a holy smacking with Sigmar's Hammer, and that foul Shaman, it will run back to the north with remains of his Norscan force. So, yeah, very well played to Janet on occasion, of course. I'll have a link to his channel down in the description below. If you guys like the cinematic shots that I do, be sure to check out Janet's channel, because he goes a lot further into it than I do. He puts a lot more work into the editing and so on of his videos. So if you like the cinematics, definitely go check him out. In terms of the engagement, how it unfolded, I'm definitely pretty happy with the performance of the Empire there. Both the units of infantry skirmishers were able to more or less pay for themselves. Sterling's Revenge in particular, are really happy that the line of sight bug seems to have mostly been fixed, in that the units will no longer move towards melee and engage like idiots like they did before. So that's definitely a plus. Sterling's Revenge definitely paid out in that battle. Knights of the Blazing Sun both did very well, and the Royal Altar of Gryphites, those 51 kills, mostly coming against a lot of Skin Wolves and Norscan Ice Wolves and other high-value targets like that. Of course, Balthasar himself racking up 113 with his 2 Overcast Final Transmutations. Wulfrik was able to get 60 despite getting transmuted into solid lead there, or bronze or gold, I'm not really sure. But anyway, the Sea Fangs definitely help with that. And I do like Wulfrik a bit in this matchup. The Sea Fang will be good against the low armor state troops of the Empire. Throg, I mean, both of them have their risks. This Wulfrik can get gooned by magic, whereas Throg can get gooned by something like the Luminarch of Hysh, or even the Hammer of Witches with the Warrior Priest standing next to it, giving fire damage. I'd imagine would do a lot of damage to Throg. So I'm not really sure who's the best Norscan Lord. Like I said, I think this is going to be one of the tougher matchups for Norsca, just because the Empire has a lot of really good answers to them. But we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, we're all playing within a relatively close group of people, and it's tough to really say until this stuff goes live on ladder. And of course, this build isn't even final. Things could change for now and release, so keep all of those things in mind. But still, hope you guys enjoyed watching. I know I sure enjoyed playing it. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, all that jazz. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.